next panelist is Shamini Jain. And Shamini is not with us today. She had to make a last minute trip to India, but she was so kind as to send me a video of her recording. It's less than 15 minutes. I'm going to play it right now. It's quite a delightful complement now to what Professor Nitin Shah just shared. So let me share that video with you now.
Namaste, Jai Jinendra. I would like to begin with reciting the Navkar mantra in the manner that was taught to my father by his grandfather, originating from Sonlal Maharaj Ji. Namo Arihantanam. Namo Siddhanam. Namo Ayariyanam. Namo Ubhajayanam. Namo Lohe Savasahunam. Eso Panchanamokaro Sab Pavapanasanam Mangalananch Savesanch Paramang Mangalam. Bol Bhagwan Mahavir Swami ki Jai. Such a pleasure and honor to be with you today, and I regret that I'm not with you in person. I apologize. I'm on a plane unexpectedly to India, which I'm very excited about. And I'm very excited that Arihant Institute is putting us together in such a beautiful and important gathering at such a critical time for us, for humanity. And I'm so pleased to be sharing with you some insights from the past 25 plus years that I have been exploring the nature of compassion as it translates to real healing for ourselves, real healing for ourselves, and real healing for each other. And so I'm really pleased to, in a very short amount of time, share with you just a few insights and, of course, more resources if you are interested in digging in. But let's be frank, it's a pivotal time for humanity. Very pivotal time for us to understand the nature of compassion, the nature of Jain teachings, ahimsa, of course, nonviolence, but aparigraha as well, anekantavad, so many principles that we have been so privileged to learn. And how might those play out in the world for us today? We will focus on compassion for today. And let's just talk real basic here. Talk about stuff that everyone is very comfortable with, even in the material world that we live in, even in the materialist science world that we live in, which has been difficult sometimes to help share the spiritual and energetic realities of compassion and how deeply powerful they are. So we begin with neuroscience, and here, of course, is what we might know. When we sense the suffering of someone else, it affects us deeply. And this is down to our neural firing levels. Many studies now, and I detail this in my last TEDx talk, which was at TEDx Berkeley, and here I've talked about, and many studies have shown us, that when we watch someone else suffer, even if it's from something like social rejection, like a study that is actually exploring social rejection in someone, when we watch social rejection in real time, the same parts of our brain will light up as their parts. And what are those parts of the brain? There are parts of the brain that actually respond to physical pain. So the parts of the brain that light up for physical pain also light up for social pain. And it turns out when we watch someone else who is in even social pain, our pain pathways light up in our brain as well. So we may be aware of this. Certainly we feel this when we see others suffer. And we may think, oh, well, no problem, because we're hardwired for love too. Now, if you don't know what these beautiful animals are, they're actually prairie voles. They are studied for this incredible hormone that is in us and in the prairie voles and in many mammals called oxytocin. Many of us have heard of oxytocin. Oh, great, the love hormone. Yes, it makes us all feel good. We see it in parent-infant bonds. We see it with, couples, all these things. But here's what we're discovering about the so-called love hormone oxytocin that is incredibly relevant for today. Our consciousness drives our biology, not the other way around. What we are discovering about this so-called love hormone is that it's completely context dependent. And so studies have shown that we can give somebody more oxytocin, for example, the love hormone, but if our consciousness is moving around with a false sense of separation between us and someone else, and we have racial bias, we have ethnocentrism, we have, hatred towards other groups because of them being different than us, then the so-called love hormone will actually instill negative behavior. It will actually emphasize bias. And this is just a reminder to us that while we may be hardwired to love, we're only hardwired to love if our consciousness is directing the flow of love to ourselves and to others. The biology is going to follow the consciousness, not the other way around. So what about consciousness? How far can our consciousness go in fostering the currents of compassion to actually positively affect someone, not just negatively? Well, here's great news. This is a wonderful, just one example of many studies that have been done by my dear colleague, Kathy Kempfer, who did this study at Ohio State University. She's a medical doctor, and she studied compassionate, loving kindness meditation. So this is a meditation that is drawn out of Buddhism, of metta meditation, where we recite the statements, may you be safe, may you be happy, may you be at ease. So these are some of the statements. And when a loving kindness meditator who is well versed in the practice sits with someone else and directs these statements to them, whether they know, the recipient, that they are having these statements directed to them or not, their heart rate variability, that is the dance of their heart, will change in a way that their parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest aspect of the nervous system, is enhanced, which does foster a healing response. So it's wonderful to see these types of studies that show that even when we meditate for someone and direct loving kindness toward them, whether they know we are or not, now in this study they're in the same room, we can influence the person's biology in a positive way. Well, there are many other ways to look at this, and I don't have time today to get into all of the wonderful detail of how studies are showing us that our energy can actually reach out and foster healing in another. So for those who want more resource, I want to let you know that I have written a book that is based in both our shastras. I do describe the subtle bodies and describe some, ways that our lesha, our karmic bodies, Tejas Sharir, and others intersect with consciousness and how they can help us understand how our consciousness and energy indeed is a bidirectional communication system where just by working with our energy, and I do give practices in the book, we can foster healing for ourselves and others. So if you like, that book is out there. You could just Google my name and you will find it, or just look for Healing Ourselves and my name. That has over 600 peer-reviewed published references in it around the science of healing and compassion as well. So an area that we describe in the Western world to understand how our energy of compassion can actually facilitate healing in another is called the biofield. And it is literally described as a massless field, some of which we can measure, some that we cannot yet measure, where when we work with this, and many healers have for thousands of years, we can direct flows of energy and information for healing. It's quite incredible. And so many practices, including things like Reiki, healing touch, therapeutic touch, but of course meditation as well, even pranayam, work with what we call the biofield in the Western model. And what do we know? Well, we've done many studies. I myself have done randomized controlled trials in this area. And again, because of the length of time, I don't have time to get into all of the data here, but I do want to share with you that there are over 425 clinical trials of these compassionate healing practices where the practitioner is literally grounding themselves, opening to universal consciousness or universal life force, and allowing themselves to be a conduit for the universal flow of love or universal life energy to facilitate healing in another. And these studies are showing us that these compassionate healing practices have real effects. They mitigate fatigue, they mitigate pain, they reduce post-traumatic stress, they reduce anxiety. And not only that, these studies now are showing in carefully conducted trials at places like MD Anderson Cancer Center and others that in fact these effects are found down to the cellular level. These effects are being shown in these carefully controlled studies, I detail them in my book, to reduce the spread of cancer in the body. And this is in cell models and in mouse models, where they are showing reductions in inflammatory cytokines, which are immune transmitters in the body, changes in cell subsets, changes in protein kinase signaling, literally the signaling molecules in the body in response to energetic, compassionate healing compared to placebo, compared to a mock healing trial. You can learn more about this from my book and TED Talks if you want to dive in more into the data. But so this talks about person-to-person healing. What happens if we go even further than that? Many of us are getting together and meditating in person. And again, so many people are beginning to study this now. Our colleagues at the TM, Transcendental Meditation, really began these kinds of studies decades ago, exploring with the TM Siddhi program. And here they brought advanced meditators together to practice a TM Siddhi technique. And they've done many, many studies. This is just one example. But what they showed is that with enough people that would coherently gather the energy and meditate together and intend for that healing to go to a particular place, they would see reductions in crime rates that were measurable. And they would have these on-off periods where they would show that after a certain time, once they stopped doing the TM Siddhi meditations for that area, the crime rates would go up again. So the effect does not last forever, but is substantial. And this is just one example. We have other colleagues like Lynn McTaggart and others that are doing power of intention groups, showing the effects of bringing people together to meditate together. And it appears that there is a coherent energy effect that happens that is measurable. And that affects other people down to reductions in crime rates. It's very, very exciting. It's very, very important for our times, for us to remember and remind others that our compassion is scalable, it's coherent, and the data is supporting this. So it's time for us to really come together to share what we know about the power of healing and the power of compassion and revel in the beauty of so many practices that we can come together and enjoy in person, virtually. Arihant Academy is doing such a beautiful job of bringing us together in person. I have my own nonprofit, Consciousness and Healing Initiative, or CHI. You can go to it at chi.is to learn more about the gatherings that we facilitate freely, where you can learn more about healing, learn from teachers, learn from scientists, and those who inspire us to be in the full flow and power of compassion. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
And so we thank Shamini Jain for recording that for us as she's on her way to India. We wish her safe travels, and I hope you were all inspired by that presentation, which we can also talk about when we get into the Q&A.